Very good evening, welcome. We are going to start with paper 2. And first we'll come to second part, which is section B, philosophy of religion. In all, there are 10 topics, and all these 10 form a continuum. Almost every time we discuss one of the topic, it may have a mini connection with the forthcoming or topics preceding it. Okay. Now, in this first lecture on philosophy of religion, we will first try to generally understand what can be religion. We will understand what is theology. We will understand or recall first what is philosophy, and then we can think about philosophy of religion. We can also try to understand the difference of philosophy of religion from religious philosophy. And when we discuss something like religion, and then gradually we'll come to philosophy of religion, we will be able to discuss few topics like religion without God. We will discuss religion and morality. And if time would permit, we'll go to the topic which is listed in your syllabus as the first one, which is notions of God. In all, we'll study 3 important notions, and you already know those conceptions or notions. As you understand, one of them can be of personal God, accordingly, personalistic notion, impersonalistic notion, and naturalistic notion. Okay, so let's first think about religion first. What can be religion? Of course, this is one of the concepts which any individual will be able to define or explain. We often think about something, are you religious? Or sometimes people may say yes and no. One of us may also say, I'm not religious, but I'm spiritual. Okay, so what could be religion? क्या है religion आपके हिसाब से? Define कर सकते हैं? कुछ कहना है? So when you think about क्या कुछ है कहना? Faith. Okay. So for example, Aryan has said religion is faith. Okay. Substratum. हाँ, किस चीज का substratum? हर चीज का. Okay. So it is like the most fundamental point of beginning, or maybe the fountainhead of all values. Okay. Belief system. Okay. और क्या बोल सकते हैं? एक सेकंड. फाउंटेन हेड ऑफ वैल्यूज आपने क्या कहा? सोशल इंस्टीट्यूशन. और कुछ कह सकते हैं? वे ऑफ लाइफ. एंड व्हाट इज वे ऑफ लाइफ? क्या समझते हैं वे ऑफ लाइफ क्या हो सकता है? हाँ, एंड देन दैट इज समथिंग. फॉर एग्जांपल, इफ आई आस्क यू टू स्टडी फॉर दिस एग्जाम एज अ वे ऑफ लाइफ, देन यू डू अंडरस्टैंड इट इज लाइक नॉट ए कैजुअल अप्रोच बट वेरी स्ट्रिक्ट adherence. If we understand Indian perspective, it is at the level of a thought, word, and a deed. Some time ago, sometimes advertisement can also have so much creativity. So some of them had come out with an idea where eat, sleep, and drink cricket. It is like a way of life. And you do understand sports can be a way of life. Cinema can be a way of life. Music can be a way of life. Education can be a way of life. Your countdown has begun. Not a single moment would be when you will forget that you have your exam. And that mindfulness, that kind of awareness is something which is like your central engagement with life. And every other thing you define in life with reference to this. Okay? जैसे exam के बाद ये करेंगे, exam जब तक है तब तक ये नहीं करेंगे. So all of this becomes your central objective, most paramount considerations. तो उस sense में हम लोग इसे way of life बोल सकते हैं. Now, as you said, institution. So what is institution? Family is an institution. Now you are at an institution, academic institution, where we are studying philosophy. So what is an institution? Okay, so again it is like, जैसे बोलते हैं family is an institution, marriage is an institution. तो कहीं ना कहीं there is also a kind of contract. Not always that you sign a contract officially, but in some way it is like when we are son, daughter in a family, as an institution, we have accepted certain principles of obligations. It is like we have solemnly pledged to act or not to act. People may say marriage is an institution. 2 individuals may come together, and there are actually formal vows that they exchange. You will be an officer. There will be a formal oath-taking ceremony. So there are certain foundational rules, principles which can govern. तो एक तरह से देखें तो institution refers to rule-governed activities, and those rules are like something you cannot violate. A promise is an institution. Promise has a value because promise, whether you mean it or not, implies that you should keep it. If we say I promise, then the very idea of a promise is like, come what may, I will abide by what I have said. In this way, if we think about one institution in our life, which could be the most primitive, most fundamental institution, which we solemnly pledged to uphold, is like religion. थोड़ा temperature बढ़ा दीजिएगा. In some way, religion can be one of the most primitive institution. It is like the most ancient intervention whereby, as a community, even as individual, we tried to create a good life, where social well-being can be ensured. We may have certain guidelines whereby interpersonal conflicts can be resolved amicably. So it is an institution. All of these are equally correct. And you understand now, as a student of philosophy, that definition is also one of the philosophical problem. When sometimes we think about definition, we look for what? The defining quality, which is also like the essence. Through Wittgenstein, you have seen that there is nothing like the essence. Meaning is always in a context, and that is how, again, we can understand probably there may not be one the definition, one universal absolute meaning, but there can be many contextual understanding of religion. However, In general, when we think about even our human personality, in different ways you have seen in paper one, at some time it is like we have one aspect which is cognitive. Then we have another aspect which is emotive. It has to do with feeling. And then there's something like a cognitive aspect, or it is like a will. Something like to act in a practical sphere. Okay. For example, this is like a Gyan. चाहे तो ज्ञान योग, bhakti योग, कर्म योग. These are the three aspects. So in some cases, people may also try to define religion, where one of these three can be the central component. In some cases, all these three could be an integral part of religion. You also understand some definitions can be too broad. Some definitions would be too narrow. The definition can indeed be one of the philosophical problems. In general, people may talk about religion is having absolute faith in some transcendental reality, which can also be known as a God, personal God. But in many other cases, there may not be any such faith in transcendental, supernatural being. One may also understand cricket is my religion, Tendulkar is my God. Music can be religion. Arts, painting, cinema can be religion for many people. Service to humanity can be your religion as well. And that is how you understand. It is one of the way to understand. But definition can be so broad that almost any serious consideration, which is like the focal point of your life, can become religion. But in some cases, people may like to define it with a cognitive component, emotive or feelings, or maybe even cognitive or will, or all of them. For example, when it comes to Hegel, you know Hegel. For Hegel, reality is an organic whole, and we are an integral part of the Geist, the absolute mind. So what could be religion according to Hegel? Hegel believes that religion is like the knowledge that a finite mind may possess. So when a finite mind is in the possession of supreme knowledge, that it is an integral part of absolute mind, then this is like religion. So overall, religion is nothing. And you remember, there can be something like art, religion, philosophy. In some way, religion is like the knowledge possessed by a finite mind as the absolute mind, which is its true being indeed. And if this is how you start to engage with reality, this is your religion according to him. Many others would focus on feeling, including Slayer Marker. One is called naam hamesha zaruri nahi. So for many people, religion is like a kind of a profound emotion, a sense of dependence, a feeling that I am dependent on God, or God is like everything for me, and it can give us that emotional satisfaction, contentment. So that could be one of the way to understand religion. Religion is a life of emotion, feeling, where you have absolute faith in God. Some people may say, like Matthew Arnold and many other, in some नामों पे focus मत कीजिए, that when you are religious, then you not only believe in certain moral principles, but you have an urge, you have a conviction to abide by them. You act in accordance with those ethical, moral framework, and this is how cognitive element is emphasized. We have George Galloway. He has also written some of the best books on philosophy of religion. So he believes it is like a holistic engagement with life, whereby your cognitive, your emotive, your cognitive being, all of them are well integrated. You not only have knowledge, you have immense faith in it, and your action is in accordance with that. But as I said, taking cue from Wittgenstein, you know, there may be a kind of family resemblance across all definitions of religion. But that does not mean we can define it for once and all. So there may not be the definition, and hence it is again like an open concept. If we think through Wittgenstein, it is like a family resemblance concept. But we will come to, as you remember, I'm just giving you some general understanding. But how should a student of philosophy of religion would understand it? We'll come to that in these two cases. Briefly, before that we'll come to discuss that in philosophy of religion. तो कहने का मतलब है कि आपको religion समझ में आया. And the problem is that it is such a profound, fundamental phenomenon that we may not be sufficiently defined for once and all, but we can very well relate and comprehend what exactly it could be. And धीरे-धीरे जितने topics हैं उससे हम और समझेंगे. So this is a religion. Then what could be? पहले याद कीजिए what is philosophy? Love of wisdom. यानी philosophy को हमने जाना as an outlook. When you become inquisitive, you develop a critical outlook, you have a scientific temper, and you believe that knowledge is not something that is before you. Knowledge has to be sought through questioning, through inquiry. In a way, it is like a quest. So if we think about religion, so there can be certain religious text, there can be certain religious concepts, religious tenet, there can be a conception of a God, there can be certain values which would be prescribed in the name of God and all. So if a philosophy is like a questioning, then it is like whatever comes your way, as Descartes has also suggested, as Socrates would say, the unexamined life is not worth living. So the point is, you should not be a conformist, you should not just emulate, imitate, you should seek justification. So यानी जब religion की बात करते हैं, and we talk about a study of God, theos is the word for God. So theos to theology, study of God is like a theology. Now there can be theological writings, theological beliefs, and when you try to accept the fundamental premise and you analyze it, accepting something, for example, say in a particular religion it is told that this text is the commandments of God, it is the teachings of God. God himself has revealed the teachings to some eminent seers. So you cannot question that. You have to only understand the basic teaching in accordance with that background assumption or truth. Okay, so this is like religious philosophy. In some way, theology and religious philosophy is not neutral. It is not non-aligned. It is accepting the basic component of that theological text or whatever is the fundamental position of the religion. In accordance with that, all other things have to be analyzed. So this is like religious philosophy. But when we come to philosophy of religion, it is now a neutral study where you have no agenda. You only want to have threadbare analysis so that whatever religious beliefs, conceptions are there, you should understand it with the season. You should, if say a religion may say God is a personal, you should understand, so what can it be to be a personal God? If they give us a proof for the existence of God with utmost sincerity, with earnestness, you examine the proofs for the existence of God. In this case, if there is a proof cannot be questioned. There can be best analysis of that proof. Okay, but in this case, you can question the proof as well. So in a way, philosophy of religion is like questioning is the only way forward. So philosophy of religion seeks justification, while theology and religious philosophy seeks authority. Can you relate with these words? Seeks authority, seeks justification. तो जैसे authority का मतलब है कि क्या God ने कहा है, हाँ, matter ends there. This is like, it is not about who has said. You may say that I have highest regard for your belief that God has said so, but I want to know why you think God has said so. What is the basis on which you believe that God had come to say so? Like Aristotle has famously said, Plato is a dear, but truth is a dearer. So आपके लिए God can be very respectful, but when you are given some teachings, you can, with complete sincerity, seek justification. Yani reason and logic. In this way, philosophy of religion is like giving autonomy to reason. And religious philosophy, theology may have autonomy of faith. Certain things cannot be analyzed, questioned, understood through reason and logic. This is more like taking cue from Spinoza, intellectual love of God, intellectual love of religion, and this may have faith in it also, and that may not always be questioned or analyzed or examined. In this context, we can think about philosophy of religion and its significance. What could be the significance of philosophy of religion? आप बताएं, क्या लगता है आपको? क्या significance हो सकता है? Okay. और तो जब you act with conscience तो क्या फायदा होता है? Okay. और okay, Kavyani says develop critical thinking. So we understand that philosophy of religion can help us understand religious tenets, religious teachings, conceptions of God, almost everything about the religion in such a manner whereby certain prejudices, dogma, superstition, patriarchy, misogyny, all these distortions, aberrations, something which is there but may not be the intrinsic part of the religion, it can be an anomaly also. And you do know there is a journey of every religion. Often I have told you that if say, I whisper something in the ears of Aryan and he is passing it to you, even it is shared privately with online students, and then the last one comes to report, जो कहा गया होगा शुरू में और जो रिपोर्ट हुआ उसमें कोई मैच नहीं होगा. So it is likely that many things would have come, and what philosophy can do as a second order inquiry. And philosophy of religion is a neutral inquiry. It is a second order inquiry. It is like an endeavor, a quest to comprehend the true teachings and remove, discard all distortions, aberrations, dogmas, prejudices, patriarchy, chauvinism, Brahmanism, etc. तो ये है इसके कुछ फायदे और relevance. So this is like autonomy of reason in the domain of religion. But will that be acceptable to everyone? Many theologians, yani those who are committed to a particular religion, they may not think that philosophy has any significance in the domain of religion. उनके हिसाब से कि मेरे अंगने में तुम्हारा क्या काम है? So for example, there is a theologian, Tertullian. Tertullian may say, what Jerusalem has to do with Athens? What church has to do with academy? समझ में आ रहा है मेटाफर कि जेरूसलेम को एथेंस से क्या मतलब, चर्च को एकेडमी से क्या मतलब. एकेडमी एकेडमी जहां से ये एक तरह से शुरू हुआ है सारे रिलीजियस रैशनल इंक्वायरी. सम अदर वुड से लाइक कार्ल बार्थ, Brunner and others, that whatever is written in the text in the Bible, whatever Christ has said, matter ends there, nothing less, nothing more than that. Okay. We have a theologian, Martin Luther, and that is why we call him Martin Luther King Jr. So he's like the senior, the original. So Martin Luther would say, if you want to understand religion, if you want to know the basic tenets of religion, there is a prerequisite. कुछ करना पड़ेगा पहले. क्या करना होगा? You will have to tear the eyes of reason. Reason की आंखें निकालिए, उनको पूरी तरह से destroy कीजिए. Kill them and bury them. तो जब तक reason रहेगा, आप रिलीजन समझ नहीं सकते. यानी इट इज रूटेड इन फेथ एंड फेथ के आंगन में रीजन का कोई काम नहीं है. बट यू डू अंडरस्टैंड दैट बेसिकली the autonomy of a questioning is like panacea, and as Gandhi would understand through 7 social sins, which he has written as an essay in Young India 1925, he says, politics without principle, wealth without work, knowledge without character, pleasure without conscience, commerce without morality, science without humanity, worship without sacrifice are sins. तो हर डोमेन में वो क्या बोल रहे हैं, आपको सत्य के लिए आग्रह करना चाहिए. So in some way, when you go for philosophy of religion, it is like even agrah for the knowledge of religion. In some cases, we can distinguish between dharma and religion, and we can also equate religion and dharma. तो अगर equate करके चले, तो आपको एक धर्म आग्रही बनना होगा. And if you simply take things for granted, it may not be the right understanding of religion. But thus, we think for us it has immense significance, because anyone who is religious, one should feel obliged to go to what? The genuine teaching, and not anything that is practiced in the name of religion. And that is how many people would critique existing religion. We have had enlightenment, renaissance in our traditions also. You have seen many things in recent past in social revolutions, social cultural religious reform also. Okay, तो उस सब बारे में भी हम लोग बात करेंगे बाद में. So briefly, you have understood how philosophy of religion is different from religious philosophy, is different from theology, and how some theologians would not at all appreciate entry of philosophy in the domain of religion. तो इन कुछ बातों को हम लोग पहले थोड़ा सा लिख लेते हैं कि क्लैरिटी रहे कि philosophy of religion है क्या. या अभी हम लोग टॉपिक में आए नहीं हैं. तो हेडिंग बनाइए, philosophy of religion या what is philosophy of religion. Philosophy of religion is different from religion, theology, and religious philosophy. Philosophy of religion is different from religion, theology, and religious philosophy. Philosophy of religion is a second order inquiry. It is a second order inquiry, while religion is the first order inquiry. Philosophy of religion is a logical and rational examination of religious tenets, belief, and knowledge, religious knowledge. It critically examines foundational concepts, doctrines, religious language, religious experience, existence of God, and related components. Thus, it is different from religion and theology. Religion is directly concerned with religious phenomena. Religion is directly concerned with religious phenomena. Theology is concerned with the defense of religious phenomena. Theology is concerned with the defense of religious phenomena. Theos means God, and logos means study. Theos means God, the God be quote में, and logos means study quote में. Thus, literally, theology in quote means study of the nature of God. Literally, theology means study of the nature of God. In a wider sense, theology in quote is a study of a religion as an insider. Study of a religion as an insider. Faith is given supreme importance in theology. Faith is given supreme importance in theology. Reason can also be there, but it is secondary to faith. Thus, the objective of theology, objective as in purpose, the objective of theology is to explain the meaning of scriptures, religious texts, and utterances. It explains the meaning of scriptures, religious texts, and utterances. Hence, theology is not a neutral study. Theology is not a neutral study. Theology is committed to a particular religion. However, philosophy of religion is neutral. Philosophy of religion upholds a rational method. It does not rely on faith. अब एक हेडिंग बनाई, सिग्निफिकेंस ऑफ फिलोसफी ऑफ रिलीजन। जैसे मान लीजिए कोई रिलीजियस टीचिंग्स डिलीवर किया गया, तो क्या कहा गया ये नहीं समझ में आया, तो ए थियोलॉजिकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग और डिबेट कैन हेल्प अस अंडरस्टैंड द अटरेंसेस. There are religious teachers who come and give us some lessons. Okay, बहुत जैसे various schools एक religious leader आके utterances का मतलब है जो बोल रहे हैं, नहीं guidelines जो religion की बातें हैं. अगर मान लीजिए कि कोई इस तरह की भी बातें कर रहे हैं, तो क्या वो religion का part है, नहीं है, वो philosophy of religion समझेगा. Theologists may also discuss, examine it, but certain things may not be questioned by theology or religious philosophy. अब एक heading बनाइए, significance of philosophy of religion. तो लिखें, philosophy of religion can enable the aspirant to understand religious knowledge with precision and clarity. As Socrates proclaims, the unexamined life is not worth living. As Socrates proclaims, the unexamined life is not worth living. The questioning, the questioning is central to every sphere of life, including religion. Questioning is the panacea. Questioning is the panacea, is the only panacea. Questioning is the panacea whereby distortions, anomalies, aberrations, बहुत सारे ऐसे शब्द मैं दे रहा हूं, आप 2-3 भी लिख लेंगे. हाँ, क्या मैंने कहा? Distortions, पूरा लाइन बोलिए. Questioning is the panacea whereby distortions, anomalies, aberrations, dogmas, prejudices, superstitions, chauvinism, etc. can be removed, cleansed away. So questioning is the panacea whereby distortions, anomalies, aberrations, dogmas, patriarchy, prejudices, superstitions, chauvinism can be removed or can be cleansed away. Okay. इसे बोलते हैं, it is like removing kernel from the husk. जो मेन चीज है उसको रिटेन करके, जो unneeded है, which is not relevant, which is not important, trivial, we can remove it. So hence, philosophy of religion restores the intrinsic profoundness of religion rather than diminish it or diminish its stature, rather than diminish its stature or harm it in any way. So it restores the intrinsic profoundness of religion rather than diminish its stature. However, some theologians claim that philosophy is unwarranted in the domain of religion. For instance, Tertullian observes that rational inquiry has no significance in the religion. He asks, कई बार मालूम है कि क्वेश्चन नहीं हो, एक्चुअली आंसर है, लेकिन पूछेंगे क्वेश्चन के हिसाब से. जैसे क्या तुम्हारा खून नहीं खोलता, तो ये क्वेश्चन है, पीछे क्वेश्चन मार्क लगेगा, लेकिन है खून खोलना चाहिए तुम्हारा, और वही खोलाने में आए हम जो बोलेंगे ऐसे बातें. तो ही आस्क्स, कोट अनकोट लिखिए, व्हाट जेरूसलेम हैज टू डू विद एथेंस, क्वेश्चन मार्क. ही आस्क्स, कोट्स बिगिन, व्हाट जेरूसलेम हैज टू डू विद एथेंस, कॉमा, व्हाट चर्च हैज टू डू विद द एकेडमी, क्वेश्चन मार्क, अनकोट. What Jerusalem has to do with Athens, what a church has to do with academy. आगे लिखें, Karl Barth, Brunner and others maintain that the Bible is final. What is written in the Bible is absolute. Anything that goes against the words of God should be discarded, should be rejected. Martin Luther observes that to understand God, he observes that to understand God, one must tear out, T-E-A-R, tear out the eyes of the reason. One must tear out the eyes of the reason, comma, kills them and buries them. Thus, eyes of the reason. रीजन से प्रॉब्लम है ना उनको, रीजन की आंखें जो रिलीजन में आ रही हैं उसको आपको डिस्ट्रॉय करना है, ओके, और जमीन में गाड़ के आइए उसको. Thus, some theologians maintain that philosophy of religion must be excluded from the realm of religion. Gandhi's essay, The Seven Social Sins, Gandhi's essay, The Seven Social Sins, prescribe a life of satyagraha in every sphere of the life, including religion. He maintains that worship without sacrifice is a sin. अब आप एक पैरेंथेसिस में लाइन लिखिए, रेफर टू रीजन, रेफर टू, ये टॉपिक है आपका, रीजन कॉमा रेवलेशन एंड फेथ सेक्शन फॉर फर्दर पॉइंट्स. एंड कुछ चीजें हम लोग ये सब पढ़ेंगे वहां पे कि हाउ देयर कैन बी सम रोल फॉर रीजन एज फार एज रिलीजियस नॉलेज इज कंसर्न. सम पीपल मे बिलीव लाइक दीज थियोलॉजिस्ट रेवलेशन इज द ओनली source of religious knowledge, faith is the only source of religious knowledge, and there are others who may maintain reason can also be the source of religious knowledge. So far we have just understood briefly how philosophy of religion can be of immense significance, and if you go through the topics of your syllabus the way I have just said, you take critical outlook and enter religion. So what are the central component of religion? God. So your topic says notions of God. There are three notions. Likewise, one we want to know, so what relation do I have as a human with God? What are the attributes of a personal God? How world is connected or disconnected with God? All that of the questions which we will see in one of the topic, notions of God. If some religions accept God, they also give us a proof for the existence of God. Do you remember ontological, cosmological, teleological, moral argument, and also rejection, criticism of those arguments? If God is all powerful, if He is the creator, then how come we have suffering in this world? In many cases, you have seen worst form of brutality, barbarism. There can also be natural calamity. Some kind of exploitation is continuously going on almost from earliest time. If God is the creator, how come He allows all of such violence in the world? So there is evil in the world, and hence there is a problem before theologians to reconcile goodness of God with existing suffering, which can be like moral evil, natural evil. So फिर से एक topic है problem of evil. What could be religion? Can there be religion without God? What is the relation of religion and morality? What is a religious experience? People may say that some of them have had a direct one-to-one exchange with God. कि जैसे मेट्रो में जा रहे थे, एक दोस्त मिल गया, कुछ लोग क्लेम करते हैं, तो कहीं जा रहे थे, रास्ते में गॉड मिल गए, and he gave me some teaching. So they are also like mystic. We will have a topic, religious experience, mysticism. I just told you about reason, revelation, and faith. Similarly, we can think about religious language. You study a text, a scripture, and it is in language. You study newspaper in language. You see how something is good, a good creator, and then you see God is good. You see a human being as a creator of an artwork, and we are told God is also creator. How should you understand religious language? For example, logical positivists have told you they are meaningless utterances. So should we take those sentences to have cognitive meaning or meaningless? Some may say they have cognitive meaning, some may say they have pseudo meaning, other may say they have a non-cognitive meaning. So वो एक topic है. Now we have many religions in the world. Can there be one truth? तो प्रॉब्लम ऑफ एब्सोल्यूट ट्रूथ इन द वेक ऑफ रिलीजियस प्लूरलिज्म. तो ये सब टॉपिक्स हैं, और ओवरऑल आप देखिए इमॉर्टलिटी ऑफ सोल इज देयर, लिबरेशन इज देयर, जो कि इंडियन ट्रेडिशन हम लोग पढ़ ही चुके हैं. तो ओवरऑल एवरी टॉपिक इज हेल्पिंग यू as a student of philosophy, examine what all are there in various religions, and of course some of the classical religions are the focal point. लेकिन आप दूसरे कोई भी और कंटेम्प्रेरी समझ से भी उसको हमेशा क्वेश्चन कर सकते हैं, एग्जामिन कर सकते हैं. तो लेट्स टेक अप ए टॉपिक फर्स्ट, religion without God and religion and morality, almost very similar, overlapping. How you interpret some of the things can make the difference. And then first we'll discuss all the 10 topics and we will take up all the questions on philosophy of religion so far together. ठीक है, तो आपको फिर से पता चलेगा कि क्वेश्चन के हिसाब से कहाँ पे किस चीज को ज्यादा फोकस करना है. तो लेट्स नाउ अंडरस्टैंड religion as student of philosophy of religion, and then we'll think about possibility of religion without a God, possible relation between religion and morality. तो ये दो इंपॉर्टेंट टॉपिक पहले हम लोग बारी बारी डिस्कस करेंगे. So as a student we should go to the root word, and the root word of religion is religare. It is a Latin word. So the Latin word religare has a literal meaning, and the meaning is to bind, to connect, union, integration. If you remember, yoga has the same meaning. तो जैसे योग का root है युज, and it also implies same thing. So this is how the root is religare. These days is a company by the name religare. Now when we go through various religions of the world, we notice two very important interpretation of religare. So there are religions who suggest that religion prescribes a way of life whereby a finite being can unite oneself with the infinite as an almighty, as the personal God. And although you know personal God, but as I said, the topics are forming a continuum. So who is a personal God will come in our अपने sequence से हम लोग चलेंगे तो थर्ड टॉपिक में. अब आज दो अगर टाइम मिलेगा तो उधर जाएंगे. तो personal God will study in detail, but you know personal God like Descartes' God, the creator, sustainer, possible, a destroyer. So what is religion? Religion gives you values, value system. You have to strictly abide by them as a way of life. In other words, if there are value systems like do's and don'ts, principles of conduct, hence they become what? Ethical guidelines. याद है जैसे एक साथ में टॉपिक और भी है, religion and morality. तो who is it, और आपके ethics में एक टॉपिक है determinants of ethics. तो who determines ethical principles of conduct, in this case a personal God? Where are they? You remember revelation? So what is revelation? Sometimes people may say that it was like a revelation to me, कि कोई चीजें revealed to revelation. कुछ चीजें मान लीजिए कि इलेक्शन कमीशन की वेबसाइट पे बहुत सारी चीजें revealed हुई. So it is also like a revelation. तो God may give certain teachings through revelation, maybe to a mystic. तो उन टेक्स्ट को रिलीजियस टेक्स्ट हो, जैसे बाइबल को भी बोल सकते हैं, कुरान को भी बोल सकते हैं, भगवद गीता को भी बोल सकते हैं, क्या रेवेलेटरी टेक्स्ट्स. ओके, so in the revelatory text God has given us do's and don'ts. In some way what is ethics? Ethics is nothing but the commandments of the divinity. तो इसको आप divine command theory बोल सकते हैं. मैं दोनों तरफ थोड़ा थोड़ा आपको लेके जा रहा हूँ, religion and morality. So what is morality according to these religions? Moral lessons are nothing but the commandments of God, do's and don'ts. Okay, and you have to strictly abide by them, conform with them, and then you get the reward. तो एक तरह से देखें तो इसमें ये भी साथ में है that ethical life is the means to religious end God. Okay, in this way religion for many religious people is all about upholding the do's and don'ts given by God, and eventually as a good child you are rescued by God. God has allowed you to be connected with him. और ये connection आपको अगर ध्यान हो तो this is not like become one with God like Shankar would say, but in some way it can be a emotional connect. और अगर आप रामानुज के हिसाब से भी समझें तो we go and form the body of the God. Okay, तो ये एक तरह का religion है, and all of these are like religions with personal God. We can call them what? Theism या theistic religion, and the believer can become theist. Okay, but there are many other religions of the world. They don't talk about any supernatural transcendental being over and above humans. They say indeed religion prescribes a way of life. So religion prescribes a way of life that can cultivate or foster a sense of kinship, that cultivates kinship या fraternity. That is, this way of life develops a sense of belongingness with fellow humans. So religious life, do's and don'ts, inculcates a sense of oneness with fellow human. It cultivates a sense of kinship with fellow humans, and hence the distance that we have among us is minimized, is overcome, is removed. As Nokia's tagline is, connecting people. So religion connects people in one cohesive community. रिलीजन क्या करती है? हम लोगों को एक साथ लाके कम्युनिटी के रूप में जोड़ती है. इन सम वे इट रिमूव्स आई मी माई सेल्फ एक्सक्लूसिव वर्ल्ड व्यू. इट इनकलकेट्स इंक्लूसिव वर्ल्ड व्यू. इट इज लाइक syncretic outlook. We don't create divisions. In fact, we try to remove divisions. And who creates this way of life? Like you have seen, पहले कुछ example देखें. Which religions, as you know, Buddhism, Jainism. So how you decide the right course of action? You don't go to scriptures. You can refer to the teachings of the Buddha or the Tirthankaras, but primarily Triratna. And Triratna is nothing but ahimsa, satya, asteya, aparigraha, brahmacharya. In some way, it is like a life where you are autonomous. It is a life of self-reliance. It is a life of self-belief. So you ensure that your higher self should rule over your lower self. So you decide your do's and don'ts through love, compassion, non-injury, not through anger, greed, try not to steal, try not to over-accumulate. And in the process, what happens? Jaise Buddha mein Maitri, Karuna, Bodhisattva, Atmadipo Bhava, so you develop a sense of oneness. In Buddhism, Jainism, there's no reference to personal God, you already know. I will tell you someday about Taoism, and generally also you would have heard about Confucianism. Taoism and Confucianism are two Chinese traditions. Okay, so in dono mein bhi, it is all about this nature. Some way they are like also naturalistic notion, where this nature, natural order, kuch had tak Spinoza jaisa, is the only reality, and you have to live in sync with the laws of the reality. Don't go against the fundamental laws. लेकिन ये भी आपको खुद से ही ढूंढना है. There is no supernatural power. तो ये जो religions हैं, since there is no reference to personal God, they can be what? Religions with God. As a student of philosophy, we have clarified that religion can be theistic. Religion can also be without God. So God is not central to the conception of religion. So generally when we think about religion, we only equate it with theism, but theism and religion are not one and the same. Every theism can be a form of religion, but every religion may not be a form of theism like Buddhism, Jainism. Now it is a different thing. As often I give you the example that you don't accept my definition of democracy, I may call you anti-democratic. So it is likely that they may say they are not religion. इनको religion मत बोलिए, moral code है. So even if you say moral code, तो दूसरे topic में फिट बैठ जाएंगे. There can be religion with morality, and there can be a moral way of life that itself can be religious. Or as I said, some friend of yours may prefer to be called a spiritual person and may not be comfortable in being called a religious person. तो हर individual का freedom है, वो फिर कैसे आपको respond करेंगे. But generally speaking, when you think about a life of reason, reflection, contemplation as the true life, so that is the path of a spiritual life. So being spiritual is about what? You are not simply adhering to anything, you are autonomous. So this suggests that religion should not take away the autonomy. Religion should give you the autonomy, sovereignty, and religion should liberate you. And to liberate yourself, you have to liberate yourself from dogma, prejudices, superstitions, false notions. फिर से देखें तो जैसे Spinoza ने कहा, intellectual love of God, and you study, according to Spinoza, Bible, and what you learn from that, constitutional democracy. It is like liberating you from your whims and fancies, because you discover that how real is rational, rational is real, and I am no one to expect any event as per my liking or disliking, क्योंकि होगा वही जो substance तय करेगा. And this intellectual love of God will liberate you. In a way, this is like a positive conception of liberty. We will see liberty again in social political philosophy of paper 2. तो अब यहाँ पे आपको बहुत सारे example मिल गए. Some of the most important theistic religions can be Christianity, Islam, and Judaism. They have their foundational writings, and in many cases the foundational writings are by Hebrew prophets. कुछ चीजें हम लोग एक टॉपिक है जैसे religious pluralism. So how many religions have come into existence over several centuries? So you also get some idea that how certain foundational writings and musings of Hebrew prophets have been the foundational writings of these religions as well, and they are in Arabic script. So if something is in Arabic, तो एक शब्द हो सकता है Semitic. Semitic is pertaining to Arabic, तो Arabic script. So hence they can be called Semitic religion also. Now, these are some of the theistic religions. Buddhism, Jainism, Taoism, Confucianism are some of the atheistic religions. We can also think about Hinduism, since you have studied now the Indian philosophy, including Hindu philosophy, and try to think about quickly what could be Hindu religion for us. Okay, so you all know when I say Hindu dharma, it prescribes a way of life. And this way of life, dharma को अगर हम ऐसे फिर से समझें, karma, sukarma, what we ought to, what the way we ought to think, ought not to think, ought to speak, ought not to speak, ought to act, ought not to act, is like dharma. So this dharma, value system that now we know as a Hindu dharma, is prior to the use of the word Hindu, which is there for last few centuries, Sindhu, Indus, etc. So what we know as this way of life now as a Hindu dharma, as a dharma value system, it is so ancient, so classical that you cannot even ascertain the point of origin since when it has come into practice. It is almost like from the very beginning of our civilization, as if it is since eternity and going to remain forever for eternity. Hence the word would be Sanatan. So in some way eternal value system, and dharma वही संस्कार एक तरह से do's and don'ts. तो ये जो धर्म है ये हो गया eternal Sanatan dharma. How have they descended on us? हम लोग तक ये कैसे value system आया? You all know that is we should know the right thing. जैसे मान लीजिए you are told अथातो धर्म जिज्ञासा, तो you should know. Know is to acquire knowledge, and vid is to know. Vidya is knowledge, and hence the source of Vidya is what? Ved. So Ved is like the credible, the most authoritative source to acquire right knowledge of dharma, do's, don'ts, value system. But then you also understand that a script has been invented gradually, but the value systems have remained prior to the invention of a script. So that is why we often say that these are like shrutis, smritis. Enlightened seers, जो अभी आप utterances पूछ रहे थे, तो they would give the utterances. बुद्धा ने लिख के नहीं दिया था, उनका भी utterance ही था. So they are giving utterances, and we are listening. And through again words of mouth, we propagate it, we consolidate it, we recall those smritis. Over a period of time, we could also write them in black and white, and we could get many texts as the authoritative source. Now, again, if you look at them, so overall, whatever is in the foundational one have been further extrapolated. Think about your own journey. Now you are trying to appear in prelims. You are trying to prepare yourself, educate yourself in such a way that you can create a vision of life which probably no one could have thought before you, especially when you think about ethics essay. You may write an essay, you may write an ethical justification for a particular course of action, which probably will educate even the professor who is evaluating and may feel humbled that some insights have been shared with him or her. तो यानी आज आपका learning इस level पे है that you may sit with yourself and you create something on the basis of your intrinsic power of reason, reflection, contemplation. Let's say that you get an essay, ethics में question, the unexamined life is not worth living. And you interpret it in such a way that even Socrates gets to hear, कि क्या यार बड़ा अच्छा लिखा, मैंने भी इतना नहीं सोचा था जब बोला, तो उनको भी ऐसा लग सकता है. So this is how you have written something all by yourself and you have become a good human being. But if we were trying to be a good child, so that time good child is all about, it is like a ticking a box. कि लेट गए 8 बजे बेड पे, हाँ उठ गए 6 बजे तो हाँ, हैव यू फिनिश्ड योर ग्लास ऑफ मिल्क? यस. पेट पे गिराए तो नहीं, बेड वेट तो नहीं किया, नहीं, आगे चेक कर लो सूखा है. तो ऑल ऑफ दिस इज लाइक बीइंग अ गुड ह्यूमन. तो ओवरऑल देखा जाए तो दैट वाज, इफ यू कुड शेयर योर चॉकलेट्स विद योर सिबलिंग, खेलने गए तो लड़ाई झगड़े तो नहीं किए, और सम टाइम वी कुड हैव मेमोराइज्ड ए पोएम, कोई अंकल आए तो सुना दो विद ऑल भाव भंगिमा, पूरा नहीं किया तो गलत हो गया. तो दिस इज लाइक योर जर्नी. बट व्हाटएवर वाज देयर एट अ नेसेंट इन्फेंट स्टेज, और आज भी वही है, बस कहने का थोड़ा पॉसिबल एनालॉजीज एक्सेट्रा ज्यादा प्रोफाउंड हो गए. तो लाइकवाइज यू अंडरस्टैंड मंत्रास, ब्राह्मणास, आरण्यकास आर लाइक फॉरेस्ट बुक्स. In some way, going to forest का मतलब है a life of solitude. कि आप दिन भर दोस्तों के साथ रहें क्लास में, you need some time when you need to go from extroversion to introversion, and that life is like the prelude to real insights. Upanishad. So Ved consists of mantra, Brahman, Aranyak, Upanishads, and these texts are like the foundational text. What you have seen in Indian tradition, now we cannot understand them, so we need a teacher. So Gautam may write Nyaya Sutra, Kanad may write Vaisheshik Sutra, Kapil may write Sankhya Sutra, Patanjali may write Yoga Sutra, Jaimini writes Mimamsa Sutra, and we can put all others as Ved ka Ant Upanishads, Vedant traditions. इसको भी वही समझिए कि वन इंडिया ईयर बुक, सेवरल थाउजेंड्स न्यूज पेपर, एंड देन यू ऑप्ट फॉर वन करंट अफेयर डाइजेस्ट. लेकिन कोई चीज छूट जाए तो एक दूसरा करंट अफेयर डाइजेस्ट. इंडिया ईयर बुक इतना हैवी कि कभी गिर जाए किसी के हाथ पे तो फूटने का डर है हाथ. तो आप पूरी किताब ना पढ़ें, किसी एक टीचर का समराइज्ड वर्जन देख लें. तो गौतम इज इन अ वे ensuring that why you have to study all of them. Go to Nyaya Sutra and you will learn everything, Vaisheshik Sutra, etc. So likewise, we have Advait, we have Vishishta Dvait, we have Dvait, you have seen even Dvaita Dvait, etc. So now these are like the orthodox Astic traditions, and since they are rooted in classical Vedic teachings, they are like Sanatana Dharma. Now, with the advent of the word Hindu, they can be Hindu traditions, Hindu philosophy. Now, we can also think about another one, Hindutva, Hindu Tattva, Hindutva tradition, which is very recent for last few centuries. So now, all of these, अगर सारे वेदांत को एक साथ रखें तो 6 classical Hindu traditions. We were trying to understand whether there is a religion without God. तो पहले अगर इस हिसाब से अगर फिर से कोई आपसे पूछता है what is then Hinduism as a religion, so you can always say as a student of philosophy, I have learned or realized that Hinduism is not like a monolithic religion. It cannot be defined on the lines of some other religions of the world. Thus, Hinduism prescribes a way of life in accordance with the teachings enshrined in Vedic scriptures. And the classical scriptures have been variously interpreted by different seers. And we have 6 classical traditions of Hindu philosophy, Astic tradition, Sanatan Dharma, namely these. And interestingly, some of them have not accepted the reality of a personal God. For example, there is no personal God in Sankhya. There is no personal God in Jaimini, and strictly speaking, in Advait of Shankar, the position is that personal God is only relative truth. In absolute sense, there is only one reality, and in personal God, there is always a difference. Like even in Ramanuja Nyaya, jahan personal God hai Patanjali, can you be one? Absolutely no. We have also seen Shri Krishna in Vaishnavite tradition. You can love God even as your beloved, but you can never be that God. तो उस सेंस में देखा जाए तो अद्वैत वेदांत में एब्सोल्यूट सेंस में अहम ब्रह्म अस्मि, आई एम वन विद ब्रह्मन, आई एम ब्रह्मन, आत्मा इज ब्रह्मन. तो इस हिसाब से इसमें गॉड नहीं है और इट इज लाइक ए रिलेटिव ट्रुथ. सो हेंस यू बिलीव दैट हिंदुइज्म इनकलकेट्स dialogical engagement with life. It promotes dialogical approach का मतलब है promotes a life of deliberation, debate, inquiry, in some way vaad, vivad, samvad. It inculcates an inclusive worldview, syncretic outlook, whereby you know that theism, atheism, agnosticism are not contradictories. They are different interpretations from different standpoints of the same truth. Ved, mantras, compilation, संहिताs, ऋग्वेद, यजुर्वेद, सामवेद, अथर्ववेद. ऋग्वेद या सीधे the Vedic verse या aphorism says एकम सत विप्रा बहुधा वदन्ति. ekam sat vipra bahudha vadanti. Truth is one, but that one truth can be interpreted variously, differently by different thinkers, traditions and religion. तो hence आपने ये कहा कि तो हिंदुइज्म आपके हिसाब से फिर क्या है? एक ऐसा आउटलुक है, एक ऐसा वे ऑफ लाइफ है वेयर एवरी पोजीशन including theism, atheism, agnosticism are not mutually contradictory, or they are not contraries, inconsistent, because they are from different standpoints. For example, as you know, even in the case of Shankar, you have understood the importance of perspective कि real, unreal, एक point of view से real है, दूसरे से unreal है, but it is not a contradiction. As Ramanuja is saying कि ये कैसे होगा कि real भी नहीं है, unreal भी नहीं है, तो from different standpoint. Jaina is not part, लेकिन उनकी हाथी की भी कहानी यही है that when you see something as a snake and you see it as a broom, don't see it as a contradiction because they are from two different standpoints. In some way, this way of life inculcates a quest within, whereby you become a seeker, as Gandhi would also say. And as a seeker, as an agrahi, gyanagrahi, you know, agrahi wahi hai, one who knows that I do not know. And when you know I do not know, then all the voices of opposition, dissent will not perturb you, will not create a sense of anger, disgust, agitation. You will have the endurance to listen to the voices of opposition. And you will look forward to such opposite views because they may give you a kind of provocation to unlearn further. And hence Hinduism is suggesting what? Embark on a journey, seek truth. And as Shankar would say, maybe all viewpoints are empirically from different standpoints, spatio-temporal standpoint. And when we know the truth of religion, we may know that every religion has the same essence, but the interpretation could be various. Likewise, same God is there in every religion, but that God can also be given different name. जैसे वो भजन है, अल्लाह तेरो नाम, ईश्वर तेरो नाम, सबको सन्मति दे भगवान. तो नाम में कुछ नहीं रखा है. You go to the core and what you realize, that same value system. In some way, thus what is Hinduism to you as a student of philosophy? It is like a confluence, sangam. It enables you to have that life of manthan journey, and hence there will be no sense of anger, agitation. You will be able to reconcile through dialogue all your differences because you understand the best possible interpretation of everyone's viewpoint. और आपका view दूसरा reject नहीं कर रहा है because all of them can exist parallelly in this transitional phase of life. So overall, when you go through them, you realize that of course there can be religion without God, and Hinduism is one of the unique religion which can incorporate theism, atheism, agnosticism as a philosophy. तो फिर से इसमें बहुत सारी और ट्रेडिशन है, श्री अरविंद तक तो आपने देखा, but when we'll come to some topics like caste of women, तो उस दिन हम लोग उसमें चलेंगे. And you remember, as I said, they form a continuum. तो बहुत सारी बातें तब जो आप राजा राम मोहन रॉय से सीख सकते हैं. You can learn that is they are what Vedantin. राजा राम मोहन रॉय is a Vedantin. दयानंद सरस्वती is a Vedantin. स्वामी विवेकानंद is a Vedantin. गांधी is a Vedantin. तो अगर गांधी से भी समझें, तो if you ask Gandhi, sir, what is your religion? तो कहने को he may say again that Hindu, I'm a Hindu. But if you ask him to, sir, what is a Hinduism? Which God do you pray to or believe in? So he may say truth. So, sir, why not God? Why truth? Truth is God, God is truth. So, sir, what is this truth? He would say you should seek truth. Satya ke tum agrahi bano. Ahimsa steyi apnigraha brahmacharya. So, sir, you say that Ram Raj, so his understanding of Ram is like the Nirgun Brahman of Shankar. This Ram is not a Ram who is a personal God alone. As Shankar would say, that personal God is needed. It may have some significance, but when you discover the truth, you go beyond it. So we may have to understand according to him that Ram is primarily the universal truth, which is more like impersonal, the cosmic reality and the pivotal foundational principle, which is governing everything about this world universe. In some way, why Ram has to confine it to one place, and how can we create his abode? Having him in the background, this entire cosmos is working. So if that rule as a foundational principle, you know it as Ram, and you live in accordance with that, that is Ram Raj. You call it as human rights, you call it as a natural law. It is also like a sustainable development. So when he may think about Ram Raj, this is very secular value system, because it is not about one interpretation of Ram or a Hindu tradition. It is like some may know it as justice, some may know it as beauty, some may know it as good, some may know it as Allah, one may know it as Jesus, or Ek Omkar, as Guru Nanak would also say. So no matter to which tradition you go, apparent path can be different, but all the religions, जैसे हम लोग धर्म की बात अभी कर ही रहे थे, तो धर्म is something like the foundational principle. तो in a way, अगर हम धर्म समझें as the foundational principle way of life, then you do understand, as we often say, what? Isai dharma, Islam dharma, Bauddha dharma, Sikh dharma, Jain dharma, Hindu dharma, Satyagraha is your dharma, and in some way constitution dharma. So dharma is like, to borrow from Edmund Husserl, that understanding of the law, principle, justice. याद है Archimedean transcendental reduction के बाद you reach Archimedean view, which is not about I, me, myself. तो eidetic reduction के through you go to pure essence, and it is reflected in universal consciousness. एक तरह से Husserl से भी इसको समझ सकते हैं. तो ये जो धर्म है, it is independent of a पंथ. तो धर्म निरपेक्ष is one of the unique interpretation of secularism in our tradition. Dharma is nirpeksh. धर्म इज इंडिपेंडेंट ऑफ रिलीजियस आइडेंटिटी। तो निरपेक्ष का मतलब क्या है? इसका दूसरा शब्द है सापेक्ष। तो धर्म इज रिलेटिव डिपेंडेंट, लेकिन निरपेक्ष कहने का मतलब है that you have already understood religion and dharma is not one. Sometimes this understanding of dharma can be like पंथ। तो आप अगर कोई आपसे, और we have a topic secularism in social political, तो among all other जो बातें हैं वो तो है ही, but it is also धर्म निरपेक्ष, and hence धर्म निरपेक्ष is inclusive of पंथ निरपेक्ष, भाषा निरपेक्ष, it is क्षेत्र निरपेक्ष, रीजन निरपेक्ष, इट इज सेक्स निरपेक्ष, दैट इज लिंग निरपेक्ष, इट इज रीजन तो हो ही गया, कोई भी और आइडेंटिटी, नो मैटर व्हाट वी क्रिएट, एवरीथिंग इज इंडिपेंडेंट। तो धर्म इज लाइक दैट, एंड हेंस दिस इज लाइक द फाउंडेशनल वैल्यू, और दैट इज लाइक आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल मोरालिटी आल्सो। तो आपने रीजन with God, without God का thesis antithesis को भी synthesis किया, and one of the references would be of Hindu philosophy itself, and you do understand how, जैसे मैंने कहा बाद में देखेंगे, certain distortions have resulted into dehumanization. We have sanctioned something like untouchability, child marriage, devdasi, sati, exploitation of widow, also in the name of religion. We have certain voices like Jyotiba Phule who would say, let's replace this religion with Sarvajanik Satya Dharma. We have a topic, Gandhi Ambedkar on caste in paper 2, social political, and Ambedkar in his essay Annihilation of Caste says, as long as a caste is there, we cannot develop, evolve, and caste is sanctioned by the religion Hindu. So he's critical of that. But then again, he's talking about what is there in practice, and not Hinduism as the philosophy. So sometimes there can be a difference between the theory and the practice. As I said, when it goes through generations after generations, aberrations may come. That is why, including Rajaram Mohan Roy and Dayanand Saraswati, they are suggesting go back to the text. Okay? तो आपने एक टॉपिक देखा, इसमें हम लोग कुछ और बातें कर सकते हैं. Over a period of time, the conception of a God has also changed. So there can be personal to impersonal to naturalistic notion. You have studied Heidegger, and there was a section called hermeneutics, art of interpretation. Many people have taken hermeneutical engagement to religious discourse, and you had written some name like Rudolf Bultmann. He is suggesting that let's try to have a revision of our interpretation of the religious scriptures. It is like a demythologize. So if there's something like a world, we are in the middle, there is a hell, there is a heaven, or Jesus is resurrected. He believes all of these may not make sense now. Today we are scientific in our outlook, so let's come out with a more scientific interpretation that can meet our curiosity. It can seem logical, tenable, and do not accept anything, or no longer continue with some of the mysteries that you cannot understand. It is like a mystery. Some thinkers would again opine that today's times are different. Now we are not leading a settled life. We are also having a solitary life in this urban setting. So let's have a kind of reinterpretation of these classical texts which can meet your inquisitive, curious self. So कहने का मतलब है, text is final, not the interpretation. So why should you equate existing readings with the final ones? There are too many things, and sometimes we say that you should refer to text, subtext, context, or even intent, and then understand the meaning. जैसे अभी दयानंद सरस्वती ने कहा go back to Ved, so call it religious scriptures, Ved, Bible, Quran, Guru Granth, or any other one. Text is infallible, but the reader is fallible. Reader may have inherent dogma, prejudices, patriarchy, misogyny, chauvinism, Brahmanism, and these distortions will distort the reading. So hence, we all should develop this philosophy of religion like autonomy of reason, and then go and examine the positions of that religion threadbare. And you are not doing any disservice. You are only trying to purge, P-U-R-G-E, purge religion of distortions, impurities, unwarranted aberrations, anomalies. जो कभी religion का part था ही नहीं. Rajaram Mohan Roy, Vivekananda, all of them are questioning idolatry. They are questioning sati, untouchability. They say none of these are integral to our classical traditions. कभी कोई reference देखा आपने, हम लोग जो classical text पढ़ रहे हैं, there is no such references. So many things could have come in a particular context, but people could have taken it out of context. So जैसे मान लीजिए तैयारी करते समय, sometime there will be tough time, and you may have certain solution for that. That does not mean that this is how you have to prepare for this exam. तो फिर से अपने इधर से religion without God का एक comprehensive understanding समझा. There are thinkers like Nietzsche. Okay, he's also a German, and he talks about actual death of God. There is a text by him, The Gay Signs, and there is a character called Madman. He is looking for God. He is searching God and is screaming through the streets. He is covered with blanket, carrying a lantern, and he screams, God is dead. God remains dead, and we have killed him. Now again, he is who? An existentialist. And certain positions of existentialism is common. You have to be the determinant of all value. So if you have to answer the question, what ought I to do? Who should answer it? You. Don't let convention, tradition, so-called religion answer it for you. In fact, if it is saying that God is dead, God remains dead, the possible implication could be that if you are just a conformist emulating whatever has been around you, this may not help you create a life of authentic existence. Existentialism is all about creating a life of your own, which is unique to your own self. So why should you rely on them when you have it in you to find the answer? Again, it is like using crutches when you can actually walk on your own feet. So you should not rely on any support when you can be independent. It can also be understood in this way that sometimes when we are over dependent on others, it is not helping us actualize our potentialities to the optimum. But when you take everything in your own hand, in your own control, it gives you more opportunity to actualize your potentialities. For example, when we come to say a city like Delhi and study, you may learn cooking, you may learn cleaning, washing, and almost you become independent. And it does not disturb your studies. In fact, it helps you evolve in multiple ways. And that is like what he is suggesting. When you think someone else would intervene, let's think about this pandemic. If we would have been asking only ki kuch kar dijiye, Bhagwan, there would have been probably no answer. Some scientists thought, let me find the answer by myself. And they could find the vaccine. But otherwise, we would have only have sought that help. उसके बाद शायद help मांगने के लिए भी नहीं रहते. But if we could come back, or that life, almost like a pre-COVID life, to a greater extent has been managed, it is due to that intrinsic conviction that give away the sense of dependence and find your own power within. So an ordinary human, ये लोग तो patriarch man ही बोलेंगे, the ordinary man can become a superman, but we can become, an ordinary human can thus opt for a life of self-reliance and can become a superhuman. And that person is a sovereign. No one can dictate terms to that individual. तो कहने का मतलब है, शायद he is also suggesting, who knows, the so-called religious duties could just be a conspiracy. A select few who have been in the power at the helm of all affair for their vested self-interest, they could have created certain do's and don'ts. And we were uneducated, naive, credulous people, very fearful, who were given some sense of, again, fear that you don't do this, you violate them, and will be punished, will be cursed. Hence, please do what God has asked you to. And as intermediaries, they have handed it down, and now a select few is getting their all advantages fulfilled, and we are often completely ignorant, and we are being used by some vested self-interest. So why should you believe in God? The way it is coming to you. Why don't you find the answer yourself? Some people have opted for scientific approach. And they say that actually, in other words, in Nietzsche, it may not be right to talk about actual death of God. It is more metaphorical. Some of them have actually meant death of God in this way, in scientific way, that the theory of creation, which is like Aristotle's dominant understanding of worldview, which is completely pushed behind by Darwin also. So overall, there is a kind of actual death of God. One may say that the moment Christ has taken a human form, it is like death of God. In some way, the way you are trying to understand life through Jesus, which is about a real life suffering and the guideline. So any one of us can be in the form of a human and deal with the challenges of life. We have a psychoanalyst, Sigmund Freud and many others. So in some way, Freud's idea is what? बाद में भी हम लोग देखेंगे. बहुत सारे टॉपिक जो नाम बोल रहा हूँ, वो सब किसी में भी फिट हो जाएगा. So if you think about Freud, तो Freud is talking about what? एक दिन कभी डिटेल में आपको Freud भी बताऊंगा, but for time being, we have an unconscious realm, and unconscious realm may have certain desires, aspiration, which is like id. Then there's this empirical conscious self-ego, and this super-ego is sense of, say, right, wrong, or our moral self. So there can be certain urges which ego may try to fulfill, but our super-ego would turn down as immoral, unethical. And this ego, empirical ego, is struggling between certain urges, certain weaknesses, unconscious impulses, and the disapproval from super-ego. So now, certain defense mechanisms can be there to find some vicarious fulfillment, to be at peace. We need some outlet. And religion can be one, sports can be one, creative activities can be one. So what is happening? We are channelizing our aspirations in multiple ways. In some way, even if you think about the role of parents in our life, so as a young child, after every setback or sorrow, pain, we go seek solace in the love, affection of parents. But sometimes they may not be with us. That is also an unfortunate reality, that they may not be with us for all the times. It is also true that at some point when you grow, you may be hesitant sharing your failures with them, because then they will be sad to know their child is sad. Now, you need to talk about those sorrow, failures, setbacks. दोस्तों में भी शेयर करेंगे तो बाद में लगेगा नहीं करना चाहिए था, या वो खुश हो गए कि हाँ भाई बहुत बनता था, ठीक हुआ, तो ऊपर से तो दिखाएंगे हाँ यार गलत हुआ, अंदर अंदर खूब खुश है. तो बहुत कम ऐसे लोग मिलेंगे आपको with who you can share. तो शायद we seek a parental image to who you go, and unconditionally वो कभी किसी और को भी शेयर नहीं करेंगे, किसी ने आगे ऐसी बातें मुझसे कन्फेस किया, तो जिस दोस्त में आज कन्फाइड कर रहे हैं, कल लड़ाई हो जाएगी, वो सबको पोस्ट कर देगा सोशल मीडिया में. But God would listen and may give us a sense of a peace closer. So now in some way Freud's position is, I don't know whether God has created me or no, but I know we have created God. So this is like another way how God is actually no longer needed. So Darwin, Sigmund Freud, Marxism, all of them are some of the critique whereby they almost refute the way conventional God has remained integral part of religion. बहुत लोगों के लिए Marxism can be a religion. We'll talk about Marxism in social political philosophy. तो overall आप देखें तो religion with God में आपके पास काफी insights हैं. ये रटने वाला नहीं है, लेकिन relate करने वाला है. And over a period of time, when you will go through all the topics and you will have references कि इसके थ्रू बात कर सकते हैं, जैसे अभी आपने देखा नित्जे के थ्रू कुछ बात कर सकते हैं, राजाराम मोहन रॉय के थ्रू कुछ कह सकते हैं, शंकर के थ्रू कुछ कह सकते हैं. You'll be able to talk about right illustrations. So we have seen religion without God and very much possible. आप इसको spiritual way of life भी बता सकते हैं. Hindu dharma can also be one of the way to understand that is dharma is the supreme value system. It can come to us through God, or as Gandhi may say, it can come to us through satyagraha also. Now try to understand a related topic, religion and morality. As I said, religion can be one of the most primitive, ancient, fundamental institutions, interventions, whereby we tried to create a good life. But if you take a panoramic view, almost every episode, which now you may term as immoral, as evil, unethical, you see that they have been justified. They have been in some way condoned. Condoned is like you accept something even if it is wrong. You justify the unjustifiable. जैसे बहुत सारे आपको लोग मिलेंगे, they are defending the indefensible. तो क्या क्या दिक्कत है? हाँ ठीक है ये. तो दे में तुम ऐसे ही there can be communal right. तो क्यों नहीं ठीक है? Terrorism क्यों नहीं ठीक है? Holocaust हाँ ठीक हुआ था. So that is how people may justify. So everything which is now a form of evil, immoral act can often be condoned. As I said, you see communal rights, you see subordination of a black, apartheid, you see so-called untouchability, sati, child marriage, unfair rules pertaining to even divorce, dowry, acid attack. People may at times justify rape if they say that the woman is of other religious identity. So hence, this topic is very relevant. Religion and morality. That is, there are people, they are justifying what could be immoral in the name of religion. What should be the relation according to you as a student of philosophy? Few years ago in essay, you had a topic. To be religious is to be human. कुछ अगर उसी में देखें तो शायद आपके हिसाब से ऐसे भी हो सकता है, to be religious is to be humane. And if in the name of religion we are promoting violence, we are spreading anger, hatred, it may not be then religion in true sense of the term. जैसे कुछ पहले भी हमने देखा हिंदुइज्म के थ्रू. So now one of the first name in West who could talk about autonomy of ethics, autonomy of morality that is independent of religion is Immanuel Kant. And you all have studied that as a critical philosopher, he has told us in Critique of Pure Reason, no reason can help you. That is, the use of reason cannot give you any theoretical knowledge of God or religion. But in his critique of practical reason, accepts God as one of the postulates of morality. However, when it comes to the question, what ought I to do? He talks about the autonomy of the agent. God है, लेकिन तब भी शायद God is only there as a guardian who may punish vicious people, reward virtuous people. So overall, if you understand कुछ चीजें जो history में भी आपने देखा, enlightenment movement, Spinoza can also be one of the earliest precursor of this view that religion and morality are one and the same. Whether it is satya, that is truth, beauty, good, whether it is ethics, it is politics, religion, all of them are parallel manifestation of the ultimate truth. So now think about some possible relation. You remember the first theistic religion had said what? That morality is included in religion. Yani what is moral way of life, morality for theistic religion? It is nothing but the divine commands of God. So morality is not independent. Morality is a part of religion. Yani morality is the means and religion is the end. And in religion theism, it is reaching God as the ultimate end. So इस context में कुछ discussion हो सकता है. And at the same time, we can think about autonomy of morality. And it can remain there with religion. So morality is autonomous, and even religion may have to accept moral value with second possibility. There are thinkers who may suggest that actually they are antithetical. In the name of religion, morality is pushed down or it is violated, as I told you about many things. So ये तीन important relation हो सकता है, and then we can think about a possible structure whereby you can accommodate this debate between religion and morality. तो क्या autonomy हो सकता है morality का, and later we will think about that. तो पहले इस relation को समझते हैं. How for theistic religion, ethics is nothing but is determined by God. In other words, this view that morality is integral to religion suggests that for the possibility of morality and for the possibility of everything, it has to be sanctioned by God. That is, God, as you will see in personalistic notion, is the supreme value, perfection personified. And every value that is around you, call it social, ethical, political, legal, is a derivative of the supreme value. तो हर चीज के जड़ में God है, यानी God is the creator. So the goodness that you have is in God. So who will create moral value? God will create moral value. In other words, if there is no God, anything can be justified, and it is also suggesting that you cannot be a good human being until you believe in God. तो एक अच्छे इंसान होने के लिए भगवान में यकीन करना जरूरी है. There are dialogues in our own cinema. बहुत सारे हिंदी सिनेमा जो पुराने हैं उसमें इस तरह के डायलॉग्स होंगे. अरे उसे भगवान का है नहीं, जिसे भगवान का डर नहीं हो तो कुछ भी कर सकता है. यानी कोई भी इंसान जो भगवान को नहीं मानता उसका पापी होना तय है, लिख लो. ये है इनकी समझ. तो should we believe that belief in God is a prerequisite? अब अगर आप देखेंगे तो बहुत सारे लोग जो बहुत ज्यादा आडंबर करते हैं, they can ostensibly do all the religious thing, and then you realize they are some of the biggest criminal. बहुत सारे बाबा भी जेल में हैं और वो लोग रिलीजन का आडंबर करते हैं. ठीक से चेक हो जाएगा दो लोगों का, तो आपको मालूम है कि जिस पे चेक होता है सिर्फ वही बेईमान बनता है, जिसकी चेकिंग नहीं है वो ईमानदार है. तो बहुत सारे बाबाओं की ठीक से चेकिंग हो जाए तो उसमें से कुछ और जेल चले जाए. In some way, should we believe that the belief in God is the prerequisite for morality? तो इस व्यू में यही बात है. Now you do remember, no matter which topic we discuss, we will find something very relevant in the writings of Plato. And one of the, again, classical dialogue of Plato is Euthyphro. Euthyphro. So Euthyphro is a character again, who is in conversation with Socrates. There is this slave who has died in his family, and Euthyphro thinks that he has died due to the neglect of his father. So he wants to file charges against his dad. As generally in conventional family setup, the moment a child may speak anything against parents, उनमें से ये तरीका यही संस्कार है, बड़े बुजुर्गों से ऐसे बात करते हैं. So almost everyone is angry with Euthyphro. That this is not right. He thinks somehow that this will be a right conduct. Piety, yani this is like good conduct, morally justified. In a way, this is like the good act. This is like something that is holy, just. So there is a dialogue with Socrates, and when he starts to talk about piety, holiness, or something like good, Socrates, as you know, someone who is like a person with dialectical thinking, who is trying to question people, deflate all the views. So he starts to ask Euthyphro, can you help me understand piety? या what is good, या what is holy? सही गलत कौन तय करता है? Moral value कौन तय करता है? So when he starts to give certain answers, Euthyphro suggests that although people are critical, but I know what I'm trying to do is right, because I'm sure God would understand that what I'm doing is right. It is an act of holiness, good या piety. तो ये क्या करते हैं? हमेशा सवाल करते हैं. तो he asks a very thought-provoking question. So he says, so does God love good? इसको piety बोल सकते हैं, holy बोल सकते हैं, ethical value बोल सकते हैं. Does God love good because the sins, because it is good, or is it good because God loves it? Does God love good because it is good, or is it good because God loves it? समझ में आया सवाल? क्या समझ में आया बताइए? क्वेश्चन समझाएं मुझे. Does God love moral value, moral principle, justice because it is good? इसका क्या मतलब है? Moral value is intrinsically valuable. It is good on its own, and God also loves it. And moral value is autonomous. Yeah, is it good? It becomes a value, moral value, because it is approved by God. समझ में आई बात? यानी moral values are autonomous, and God also accepts them. There is nothing like a right or wrong. Something is morally right or wrong because God has commanded it. So ethics is divine commandment, second answer. और first में moral value is autonomous and God has to accept them also. अंतर पता चल गया? Now you do know that someone who is a atheist नहीं, who is theist, will say what? That it becomes good because God loves it. याद है ना, divine commandment. And those who may go for second view, where ethics is autonomous, may say that even God has to love what is morally good. Okay. So now for believers, only that is moral which is commanded by God, and commandments are where? In the religious text. Okay. Now you also understand, as later I said, we can think about this perspective that whatever will be the commandment can be in the text. That does not mean that a person can go and comprehend it. So hence, we will eventually suggest autonomy of ethics is needed. तो व्यू कोई भी हो, आपके पास बाद में पोजीशन होगा ऑटोनॉमी ऑफ एथिक्स इस टॉपिक का, या ऑटोनॉमी ऑफ रीजन यानी ऑटोनॉमी ऑफ फिलोसफी. फिलोसफी ऑफ रिलीजन शैल हेल्प अस अंडरस्टैंड हाउ रिलीजन एंड मोरालिटी मे हैव सम ओवरलैप एंड येट देयर कैन बी सम इंडिपेंडेंस ऑफ बोथ दी स्फीयर. अब जो बातें इन्होंने इधर से कही, देयर आर अदर्स हु मे आल्सो से दैट व्हेन यू थिंक अबाउट moral values across a community, there can be several differences, variations, but there can be some objectivity among them, and that objectivity, that continuity can come through personal God. There are thinkers like Cardinal Newman, जैसे पिछला व्यू J. Smith बोल सकते हैं, लेकिन फिर से आपको नाम याद करने की जरूरत नहीं है. Cardinal Newman धीरे धीरे आपको याद होगा, because we'll talk about him on some more occasion, believes that conscience is the voice of God. God, the personal God, is the creator, and the voice of conscience is the voice of God. So he is also believing that you know right or wrong because that is in you as a divine voice. तो इस हिसाब से कुछ लोग first view को promote करेंगे, where central idea is what? Ethics is not autonomous. The determinant of ethics is who? Divine command, and they are enshrined in revelatory text. एथिक्स में भी सोचे तो डिटरमिनेंट ऑफ एथिक्स में नॉट एन इंडिविजुअल बट दी गॉड. लेकिन प्रॉब्लम्स बहुत सारे हैं, प्रॉब्लम्स सब हम लोग एक साथ ही डिस्कस कर लेंगे. नाउ सेकंड व्यू कुड बी ऑफ ऑटोनॉमी ऑफ एथिक्स. इट इज लाइक सेइंग, लेट्स से वी आर डिस्कसिंग इन ए क्लासरूम मैथमेटिक्स, एंड दिस इज आवर क्लासरूम. When we are sitting in the classroom, and we all may have sometime our own religious identity, it may be reflected in our dressing, our body language also. So there can be students of different religious identity, say R1 to Rn. But if a mathematician or a teacher is telling us something about a proof how triangle, sum of the angles of a triangle is 180 degree, a student of a particular religion may not have any difference. No matter to which religion you belong, this value, this theorem is for everyone. And that is like universal, autonomous, ethical value. Even if there is a God of different kinds, every God has to follow it. And hence, there can be parallel relation between religion and morality. You have seen Nietzsche, एक तरह से वो भी इसी बात को बोल रहे हैं कि अगर उसका चेंज करते हैं इंटरप्रिटेशन, moral value shall not be determined by God or religion or by social custom convention. You have to stand on your own, and you should believe that there is no God, or God is dead, God remains dead, we have killed him. Why are you using the crutches? And that is one of the way to think about autonomy of ethics. Third view could be that religion is harmful. Almost every time, ethics has been subordinated, humanity is brutalized, there is mayhem. In history also, in current times also, you see people will justify it in the name of religion. In this context, there is this thinker Rousseau. Rousseau हम लोग पढ़ेंगे social political में बहुत सारी चीजें overlapping में. तो Rousseau would say, he talks about something like general will हम लोग देखेंगे, but Rousseau believes like Kant, क्योंकि Kant अगर आपको याद हो, I told you that Kant was very particular about his afternoon walks. Rain or shine, गर्मी ज़्यादा कुछ भी नहीं मानते थे, he would go, and so say punctual that people would say you can match your watch. But when he was reading Rousseau's Emile, he was not very regular. He was also delayed on some occasions. So Rousseau had significantly impacted Kant's understanding of ethics also. If you recall his universalizability, it is very much rooted in reason and not in sense perception. So Rousseau believes for a good state, citizens have to go beyond personal will and they have to cultivate a general will. तो हम लोग देखेंगे बाद में. लेकिन general will is all about impersonal, impartial orientation. You transcend your body and think through mind, which is common to every human being. Hence, he says, if citizens are highly religious, then they cannot be good citizens. Because somehow people you see, those who are too much into religion in the conventional sense, and we are not trying to express any lack of faith in religion per se. We are trying to understand how there can be a distortion in the practice, in the popular understanding of religion, and what could be the precise understanding. तो कई बार जो लोग popular sense of religion में believe करते हैं, you try to reason with them, and you will then say कि नहीं आप ही ठीक है, मुझसे गलती हो गई, मैंने debate शुरू कर दिया. They would actually act like Gandhi's monkeys, कि reason ना देखूंगा, ना सुनूंगा, ना बोलूंगा, बाकी हर चीज बोलूंगा. So then, in the name of religion, if people are too gullible, they are too naive, they are dogmatic, prejudiced, how can they think rigorously, rationally? So Rousseau believes a good citizen shall not be too religious. So if one is too religious, one cannot be a good citizen. You have studied Bertrand Russell. You remember he has a kind of erudition that is like a par excellence, not confined to one subject. He's someone who was also given a Nobel Prize in Literature. So he has written critical essays on religion also. He has appeared on certain BBC radio program where he had dialogue with Populston live. अब शायद वो सब हो सकता है online भी होगा. In 2 essays, he has given us so much food for thought. एक का नाम है Why I'm Not a Christian और एक का नाम है A Free Man's Worship. So somehow he is suggesting that as humans through our scientific temper, we have reached the golden age. So we are almost at the threshold, at the entrance. But there's only one problem. That entrance, that gate is guarded by a dragon, religious dragon. तो अगर उस golden era में घुसना है, आपको नई जिंदगी शुरू करनी है, तो इस dragon को खत्म करना होगा. And this dragon is not letting us promote reason or dialogue. It is undermining logic or rational deliberation. And this is how we have to come out of it. Similarly, when he talks about a free man's worship, his views are very profound. Look at the title, A Free Man's Worship. And you know, no matter who is the thinker, है तो सब मर्द, तो patriarchy कूट कूट के भरा होगा. अभी जैसे मैंने रूसो की बात की, तो रूसो would make the most outrageous remark against a woman. वो हम लोगों के पास अलग से टॉपिक है, उस दिन इन सब की हम लोग बेइज्जती करेंगे. तो his essay should have been a free human's worship. Look at the word free. In a way, he is suggesting that the way religion is practiced, it takes away freedom. It enslaves us. So religion should not enslave you. Religion should liberate you. Religion should help you autonomously decide what could be worship for you. अगर एक analogy से समझें, let's say that now you are counting your days, and because of that you are not able to practice that template of worship. That read your religious text, visit it on a particular day. In some cases, there can be fasting during day. If one is not able to observe it, because one's way of life is what predominates as of now. The friend may say you are no longer religious. You're not worshipping your religion the way you should be. But say that if you counter him or her, like why can't I be free to redefine the mode of worship? I believe rather than just visit a religious institution, can I do something in life whereby every human being can have a roof on their head? Rather than go and feed beggars, hungry children at the religious institution, can I do something whereby every child, every human being can get 2 times a meal with dignity in the homes of their own? Rather than read my religious scripture, can I do something whereby every child, irrespective of birth, can access quality education? Rather than go and put water in my religious institution, can I do anything whereby people across the length and breadth of the country or globe can access quality or say clean drinking water, including Bangalore people? तो अगर आप इस हिसाब से कुछ काम कर सकते हैं, तो वो है worship according to Rousseau, according to Russell. And don't let anyone dictate terms to you. So we'll go through some more perspective here, एक solution भी निकालेंगे. तो बहुत हद तक philosophy of religion या paper 2 is also like answer essay writing. The difference is that in this case you have certain stories, certain substance which you should be using more effectively. और उधर ऐसे में वो सारा आपका एक तरह से open ended है, उसमें आप पूरे जनरल स्टडीज की चीजों को मिला सकते हैं. But in this case, emphasize more on your classical paper 1 and what I'm sharing now. और इसमें कुछ सजाने के लिए you can use current affairs also or your understanding of general studies, history included. ठीक है, तो ये passive नहीं है उतना. We don't have much space to give our reasoning in paper 1 because many scholars have already given you the critical perspective. If we just relate with them, it is enough. लेकिन इसमें आपका ज्यादा active participation चाहिए. But your basic references are almost from paper 1. Indeed, I'll be adding to that. ठीक है, तो we'll continue with religion and morality and we'll add a few more topics. तो चलिए, thank you for your participation. See you all tomorrow at 5:30 p.m.